Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to my little home machine shop. You may remember at Christmas time I put up a video and Tom Knott over there at the Hilltop Machine Works sent me this business card holder. And I put up a little video on it, and then I asked Tom if it would be okay if I could CAD model it and draw it and then make some here to show on my channel. He said go right ahead, so thanks for that opportunity, Tom. So today's video I'm going to be covering how I made mine. Now, you may remember it from the CAD tutorial and the way Tom made his. I have deviated from the original plan. I didn't have any roll pins at home or a ring, so I just decided to counterbore it and use cap head bolts to hold my lower pieces on. So here it is. Here's my completed part. And I made 3 of these. And the reason I made 3 is because I went and bought the brass to do this, and it came in 300mm length, which is 12 inches. And I managed to get 3 out of it, okay? So today I'm going to go through the processes of how I made my ones. And like I said, I did deviate from the plan with a cap head bolt, but look, it still serves a purpose and it still works well. So what I'll do now, I'll go over to the machine. I'll do some narration through the video too, if that's okay. And that will explain the processes that I went through to make this here today. Now, anyone could make these. This is not a super hard job. It's a lot of fun actually. I actually enjoyed making these. So look, I encourage you to have a crack. Maybe if you want to save on money, brass is getting a little bit expensive. Now, to give you an idea, I roughly paid, I think, between $90 and $100. Now, $100 Australian in US dollars is about 69 US dollars. So that's for 2 pieces of brass, which are 3/4 inch in diameter and in hex across flats. So it's not a cheap material. So if you wanted to make some of these would actually look really nice in aluminium as well. Righto, let's get into it, and like I say, I'll be with you throughout the video with the narration. And so I'm just currently putting the brass stock into my little bandsaw and docking these to length. As I said earlier, I should be able to get 3 pieces out of this. Now, they won't all be 100mm long. They'll roughly be about, because you've got the curve for the blade to worry about, probably 97mm long. Cutting the feet now, and I need 2 feet for every frame. So in total, I should get 6 pieces out of this 300mm length of brass. There's my first 2 pieces. So let's head on over to the lathe now. I've got the round bar in the 3-jaw chuck. And I'm just going to face this, and I have my tool post offset to 45 degrees so I can do the chamfer on it. Now take note, that's not the correct cutting tip, carbide tip for brass. I tend to use some aluminium cutters on brass, they work well as well. This is actually an insert for steel, but it's cutting, it's doing the job fine. Now, I had the lathe set up with the dial wheel set to 0, so each time I dropped in with the next part, you've got to remember I ended up making 6 of these. Having it set up that way, I knew every one of my chamfers were going to be consistent throughout all the feet. So here's the opposite side. So facing, and then getting my dial wheels back to 0, and then just using the compound feed to put that chamfer on. Little tickle with my lathe file just to break any sharp edges. And in with the hex. Once again, just popping in there and facing that. Now I couldn't, after facing it, I couldn't just chamfer it because it wouldn't look right. So in the actual CAD modelling video, I put a radius edge on it, or a filleted edge. So I had this piece of Sutton high-speed steel tooling, and I just went over to my grinder and I just ground a radius profile in it, and just came in and just touched the edge with this huge radius, and just gently worked around it until I just got it by eye. And Once again, I just gave that a little bit of a tickle with my file. You'll see as I flip it around to do the other side, I zoom in a little bit closer for you. And it's actually nice when you can get that camera right down into the shot, so you guys in YouTube land can actually see it. And there's a better shot of that for me too, and you just see how I just came around it like that, just touching it on all the edges, and just dropped in with my file just to give it a little tickle, break any burrs. And when I stop the lathe, I think you'll find that it came up rather well. Okay, so over to the milling machine now, and I'm using my Tashawn edge finder here to find the centre of the workpiece. So what I'm doing is just dropping in and picking up, then splitting the difference, so finding the centre. And now I'm going to find X centre, so off to one edge, zero it out, drop in on the other side. And what I'll do now is halve it. You watch here, and half it and split it, and come back and find the centre. Now this is a little very sharp carbide end mill. It's a 1/4 inch, brand new. I can't remember the name of it, of the tool. They predominantly use it for CNC machining in aluminium. Quite popular at one stage on YouTube. A lot of people were using them, and a good mate of mine sent me these over to use, and it's the first time I used it, and it was sharp as a razor blade. Did a really nice job. So when I'm feeding here, I'm just using the crank wheel on the knee to bring that up so I can watch the measurement on the digital readout. And now that I'm at depth, I'll retract from there. I've just got a parallel in there now. You'll see that I used another parallel to find as a stop on the edge. And I'm just spotting this because I need to drill and tap these. Like I was saying to you earlier, I deviated from the plan and I wanted to go with a cap head bolt. So just popping in there with a Sutton spot drill. And now you'll see a little bit on a closer shot how I was doing that. Now I'm just going to drill that 5mm. And I'm drilling it 5mm diameter because that's the tapping size for 6mm by 1mm pitch. And just winding that knee up manually just to obtain my depth. I think I was drilling that 18mm deep from memory. Once again, the other side. And drill the other side as well. Now, I've got a bit of stick out here, and I'm using this very old Sutton high-speed steel 3/4 inch cutting tool. Now, I reckon I had that end mill for about 30 years. It's a little bit blunt, it's not that sharp these days, but it's good enough for what I want to do here. And I'm just taking a scallop, so I'm sort of going full engagement with that cutting tool. I'm just taking my time with it. I didn't want it to squeal and carry on, and I'm just using the mill on a slower RPM here to do that as well. Once I'm to depth, I'm just looking at my DRO and checking it. And I'm trying to match the model that Tom gave me from Hilltop Machine Works. And here's the opposite side. And you can see brass really machines easily. It's not that challenging to work with. That's why a lot of people use it as well. It looks good when you machine it. You can get a nice polish on it, nice finish on it as well. And there's my finished frame. Now that's just one of them, and I made another 2 off camera. So it's in with the feet now, and I dropped in here with I think it was a 10 or a 12mm end mill, probably 10mm end mill, and just plunge cut that straight into the brass by winding up the knee. And I only had to go the depth just so I could capture the cap head and it didn't stick out. Now let's swap the tools over. Here I'll stop the mill. Swap the cutting tools over for a drill bit. Now I'm dropping in with that 6mm Sutton drill bit and drilling all the way through the through hole, and that will allow the cap head bolt to go through the foot into the body, into the frame. Now unfortunately I forgot to press record when tapping the thread into the frame, so you'll see here in Tom used dowel pins and they were just a little bit loose. Maybe the Loctite let go after a while, and these are my ones with the cap head bolts in them, and that I've just used some stainless cap head bolts there and they just pulled it up really tight and it stops any movement. So in we go with the cap head bolt, tighten it up, and these are just ones I had lying around the workshop. Like I said, I didn't get the footage of tapping that thread into the frame, sorry about that, but you know, you've seen it done before. And what I'm showing here is that I've actually got them the same height as Tom's. So there's the finished objects, little business card holders, and there's Tom's original. So I'm happy with that. See you on the next video. Bye for now.